Welcome back to another episode of the Family Album. I'm your host, AJ Sonari.
And I'm Matt Glass.
Last week you heard our family meeting where we discussed our top 10 favorite albums of 2023.
I enjoyed hearing your top 10, AJ.
Thank you, Matt.
I think you really showed us a wide palette of music that you've intook this past year.
Matt, I couldn't have said it better myself.
I could have.
But we're back on the regular format this week. Just two dudes and just two albums. So, and it's the kind of the first week of February. It's still January by the time this episode comes out, but you know.
That's true. It's true. Happy February, AJ.
Happy February, Matt. February is the month of love, and I feel like we have kind of a theme for this week's albums in both of our albums.
Yes.
So, Matt, what is the album that you chose for me this week?
So this week I gave AJ The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monáe.
And I gave Matt a beloved favorite of mine, Loveless by My Bloody Valentine.
Two albums that really have nothing to do with one another, like at all, except maybe in theme. But even then, one kind of goes in one direction, the other goes in another direction.
Yeah, I guess love, more like relationships and intimacy, I would say is the theme, but very different directions, as Matt said.
Two different types of intimacy.
Exactly. So Matt, what album would you like to start with this week?
Let me think. AJ, pick one or two.
Two.
All right. We're going to start with, actually, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking.
Oh, fuck!
By Roger Waters.
Not again.
It was a trick question. It was
always Roger.
This week's two albums were both number one, so.
Oh, no.
No, I'm kidding. But anyway, that bit was really, really dumb. Anyway.
Hey, it got me. I thought that was pretty funny. I'll be honest, I don't have really much to say about Janelle Monáe's album, but I have a decent amount to say about Loveless.
I was going to say, yeah, let's start with the album I gave you.
All right. I'm very down for that.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary pals, The Age of Pleasure was released on June 9th, 2023, and is the fourth studio album of Janelle Monáe, who, if you don't know them, they have a really interesting discography, but also they were a featured vocalist on the hit song We Are Young by Fun.
We can't... We are contractually obligated to mention that.
Yeah, I feel like that's how most people kind of know...
Janelle Monáe.
Yeah, unfortunately. They're also a great actress, let me just say. But this record was released in Wonderland Records, Bad Boy Records, and Atlantic Records. It is an Afrobeats, reggae, and soul record, and it was produced by Roman G. and Arthur, Nana Kwabena, Sensei Bueno, and Nate Wonder.
Wow. What an all-star team.
Yeah. Also Janelle Monáe also.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting record. I had heard one of the singles, and I gotta say, like, I don't want to spoil it like too much about what my final thoughts are. I was kind of disappointed with the execution.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I feel like there's nothing inherently bad about this album.
Oh, no.
But like, it's just kind of a little lackluster.
Yeah.
As an experience.
It's a little, I'd say, especially like in the end half for me.
Yeah.
Like it kind of starts, it has like an interesting start, and then there's like a few tracks in the middle that are like pretty okay. And then like it sort of flatlines. No, not flat. I'd say more like plateaus.
Peters out, if you will.
Yeah. Fat man. Oh, man.
Peter. Janelle Monáe is here.
Oh my God, Peter, are you all right?
No.
But yeah, I'm very interested to hear what you had to say track by track, because personally, I just brought it because it was sort of current.
Yeah.
And it was an album that came out in the last year. And yeah, I figured it was when it comes to love in particular, I was like, okay, love, pleasure.
They're hand in hand.
Paradise.
And there's a lot of fucking pleasure all over this album.
I would sure say so. But
Yeah.
AJ, why don't we float into the first track?
Very nice.
It's called Float, ladies and gentlemen. Featuring Soon Kuti and Egypt 80.
I think it's a solid enough opener.
Yeah.
It's one of the more catchy ones, one of the most popular from this album, I believe.
I think it was actually one of the singles.
That makes sense.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Description away, if not.
Actually, it is one of the singles. I do remember.
Cool.
One thing I can appreciate off this record is the usage of horns.
Oh, 100%.
I think the horns very much like carry a lot of the tracks, and they're different enough. Like a lot of times they have like the same kind of rhythm, but like I love horns.
Agreed. I mean, I feel like the horns definitely are kind of are as you said, they're the star of the album. They're kind of like the different kind of worldly influences that are on all these tracks, I think really helps give them a unique identity.
Oh yeah,
But I
would
feel
say so.
like at the same time, a lot of these songs lack a lot of weight.
I would agree.
Yeah, I feel like there's just too weak of a backbeat to kind of give these songs the punch they need to like really make them stand out.
No, same. I that's literally what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I also think that there's like a bit too less of bass on this album. Like there's one where it's like really like bassin', but then like there are a couple that I'm just kind of like, I feel like it could have used a bit more of like a
because like
bass to tie like the chords in a little bit better.
Because the drums and the bass are like pretty low in the mix, and they don't really kind of like give like, as I said, like a punch. So a lot of these songs feel kind of weightless. Like Janelle Monáe's voice is very nice, but they can only carry so much with their vocal prowess. So I feel like Float's not like the worst example of that, but it definitely kind of shows all of its cards right from the get-go. So anything like about this track stand out to you besides the instrumentation?
I'd say like maybe not in like the best way, but they do a lot of like kind of rap-esque sort of things on this. And I think sometimes it works. Like she kind of owns it on this track, but later down the line, I'd say it kind of gets a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Her flow definitely kind of fluctuates from catchy to just kind of whatever.
But her singing vocals are honestly pretty on point, especially the vocal harmonies later down the line.
Definitely.
But that's what I would say. Like this is what the answer to your question is that I'd say the sort of like rap sort of bars kind of flow. It works here better than other tracks down the line.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The hook is also not that bad.
Yeah, it's definitely like a catchy summer vibe, which is what this was going for. And I think it achieved that.
Well, AJ, shall we move on to track number 2?
I'm down for that.
This next one's called Champagne Shit. And the organ on this is very, very nice. I think using, because there is a bit of a soul influence across this entire record, I would say. It's mostly like reggae and Afrobeats, but like, I'd say there's like a minor like soul.
Like R&B kind of, yeah.
And I think like the organ was like really nice on this one, actually. I just kind of feel like a lot of the fine instrumentation is not highlighted as much.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of makes me a little sad because it's like.
It's very sparingly used where it's like kind of there to like sprinkle in a little emphasis on some kind of part, but it's never like the main focus. It's kind of like gone before you can really appreciate it, which kind of sucks.
I guess I can also kind of see why though, because like. From what I know, Janelle Monáe is sort of like an industry like artist.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of their publicity comes like from the industry and stuff like that. So I can kind of see why it might be a little bit watered down.
Okay.
In a way. I mean, you can't just like have one of the best songs, We Are Young, and then just sort of like be going all Steely Dan, you know what I mean? Like
God, I wish we could though.
I really would. No, me too.
In a perfect world.
In a very perfect world. But yeah. More about this song. Again, the horns are like really, really on point. But I will say I'm kind of glad that this song is not too long because I don't find this one nearly as catchy as the first one.
Yeah, and I think that goes for most of the album. It's a very short album. Is it 30 minutes or is
it's a little above 30 minutes? I believe 30 minutes and 38 seconds, but don't quote me on that.
But like some of these ideas could benefit from expanding a little more, and I feel like that's kind of a detriment of this album, that even though it's short, it's not like a slog to get through. A lot of these ideas don't really feel fully formed, and it feels kind of like unfinished at parts.
Yeah, I can agree. And I think there are definitely some like skits too within it.
Yes.
That also provide like very minimal padding.
Yeah, it's just kind of like there to fill the runtime.
Yeah.
And just kind of like continue like the main like melody or riff from like a previous song, and it's just kind of there for the sake of time.
And while I do I love how we're literally talking about the next track before you even get finish this one. But yeah, no, I think that's another thing about this record that I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. A lot of transitional stuff.
Yeah, that's unnecessary. I think Champagne Shit is fun though. Like in terms of like theme and the chorus, it's a lot of fun. As you said, the organ's really nice. It's like, as Tom would say, it has a nice tropical vibe.
Yeah, this album is very much like dripping in tropical.
Yeah, like I love like all like the worldly kind of influences, especially on the reggae stuff.
Yeah,
which makes a lot of these tracks stand out. And I think here is a good example of that. A lot of cool shuffly stuff, which I dig, and the horns are also always great. Nice second track, but nothing that really, really gets me going.
No, I agree. And it flows really, really well into Black Sugar Beach because it's basically just like a 1 to 2 minute continuation.
Which I didn't even know when I was like taking my notes.
Same here.
Yeah.
Like I was literally just like, oh wow, I forgot how short this track is.
Oh, I like the style switch at the end of the song. I was like, oh, it's a different song. I see. Gotcha.
I think there is like a bit of a change up here though for Black Sugar Beach because the beat sort of changes a little bit and then the horns become a bit more embellished, which I'm like, well, if you made that into like a longer track, even like I would have been fine. You can still keep the runtime, just make it longer.
Yeah.
Like no offense. Here's the deal, right? So this is sort of like a sexy album, sexy time album. You know what I mean?
Yes.
A lot of these tracks are like 2 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like they're gonna have to keep looping this album like over and over again. Like
wow, this
Jesus,
is like performance anxiety. The album,
exactly. That was kind of my whole thing. I was like, it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be like easy listening. You know what I mean? In a way, with some like sort of interesting little production flares like thrown in. But I was just kind of like, yeah,
a lot of these finish early,
so to speak. Yes. Oh man. Hopefully you guys last longer than the album. But
amen.
Shall we continue?
Matt, that joke was phenomenal.
Thank you.
And hopefully so is this transition.
Phenomenal, featuring Doechii? Doechii?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Apologies.
Description it is, baby.
Woohoo! Yeah, this also had a nice seamless transition into this.
Yeah, the transitions on this album I think are very nice. A lot of the songs flow into each other very nicely, and Black Sugar Beach Phenomenal is a great example of that.
AJ, I think we might have a premature fuck on our hands.
Oh, do we?
I think we might,
Oh my God, what is it?
I believe if I want to go back to the lyrics a little bit, it's in the first line and it says, I'm looking at 1,000 versions of myself.
Oh, yes.
And we're all fine as fuck. To like this runway music. And I'm like, do you like the little motion I did, AJ?
I did, that was nice.
I wish you guys could see it.
It was beautiful.
Maybe one day.
Up to interpretation.
Yeah, no, a little bit of a premature fuck on my hands.
Oh, definitely.
Not as bad as the Some Nights intro.
Yeah.
Where some nights I say fuck it all, stare at the calendar. But yeah, that you know, this is another thing that I kind of wanted to bring up. The lyrics, I feel like, are just a bit too like.
Yeah, they're very in your face.
Yeah, not even in your face. Like I'm fine with that if it has a nuance and like meaning. I feel like they're on the nose.
That's okay.
That's
better way to put it.
That's kind of how I feel. Like it's like you're just telling me.
Yeah, it's very raunchy and it does not hide that.
No, and like I think in ways when you want to be in your face, but kind of like make the lyrics like telling me without necessarily telling me in a way, like with some nuance. Agree. But I feel like they're just like really like we're all fine as fuck,
and we're all fucking fine.
I don't know. Like that's another thing on this record. The lyrics are not very like
subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. I mean, I feel like it's commendable that like they're just like really going for it. Like they're really leaning into the concept of pleasure.
Of course. Yeah.
But again, at the same time, some nuance would be nice instead of just hearing, you know, like pussy purring all like these lyrics. It's like, all right, Janelle. my dad's in the other room.
He's also listening to the album, but it's we don't have to take him to the Black Sugar Beach just yet, okay?
For those listening to the Christmas special, the Venn diagram of my father is indeed the little drummer boy.
Well, pum-pum-pum-pum. AJ. Oh boy! Imagine if, like, I'm just imagining if does he have Spotify? Do you know?
I bought him a subscription like years ago, but he doesn't use it.
Imagine if it's like on repeat. It was just like
the little drummer boy,
and then fucking Phenomenal feature.
Oh, I would have a lot more respect for my father. Just kidding. I love you, Dad.
Oh man, more things I want to say. There is another kind of, I don't want to say missed opportunity because I technically heard it, but I wish it was more. There's like a guitar sort of like styling in the left channel, and I'm just kind of like, damn, like
it would be nice if that was kind of like a main feature on each of these songs, because it just kind of like pops in for like little sections, then goes away.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks.
A little bit, yeah. Like it would have been, I feel like it would have been so cool if there was like a guitar solo like in the middle of these songs.
Definitely.
Like I could vibe with that. Another lyric call out. I'm sorry, Janelle. I love your work. I promise. I actually really enjoyed Dirty Computer, but at the same time, you just blatantly saying, let's smoke marijuana. I don't think anybody who's ever...
Are you a cop?
From the few times that I've done it, I've never been like, hey, Fataday, want to smoke marijuana?
Hey, fellas. I got this fresh roll of marijuana.
Reefer.
Who wants to toke?
Mary Jane, anybody? Oh, man. Like, I was like, wow, you're a fucking narc, aren't you? But, this one is not really a favorite on my end, but toward the end, I will say that when the piano's kind of traveling like left and right, I was like, that's cool. Yeah. I like that.
I also like the mutes on the trumpet. I feel like that creates a nice little sound.
I just feel like it's a little bit too much garnish and not enough substance.
That's a very good way to put it.
I've been watching a lot of The Bear. A lot of The Bear.
It fits. Next up, we have Haute, spelled Haute, pronounced Haute, I believe, but she pronounces it Haute for like a stylistic kind of play on words, which is very, very cute.
Of course.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. I'd say it's, again, kind of just like a musical continuation
of Phenomenal.
A little bit, because like it's in the same like key.
It just has a different kind of hook and tempo.
It's a different song, but it's very much like a sister song to the last one, I'd say.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is that... Sorry, I tried to write the beats are the same, and it said the bears are the same.
You just can't get away from the bear.
I can't. Jeremy Allen White.
What a guy.
Please just be on our podcast.
I know you're listening.
That'd be fucking wild. So the one thing I do know, they mentioned David Bowie's Moon Age Daydream off of Ziggy Stardust on this one. And it was not very subtle, but I can appreciate that only because I saw a video recently. They actually have a huge vinyl collection. Like it's like they were showing it off, and I was just like, you know what? That's actually kind of based. So I'm sure they saw the vinyl and were like, I'm going to mention that in the song.
I love David Bowie, yeah.
And which is cool if they do, but at the same time, just like I wish they was nuanced a little bit better.
Agreed.
It kind of reminded me of what's the one Bastille lyric? It's like
virtual porn?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna mention virtual porn, no, it's like Blade Runner.
Oh, Blade Running.
So
and oh my god,
it's like so.
Damn it, give me the future. Suck my dick, piece of shit.
Yeah, that album's not great. It's not the best.
I forget what song it is, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Let's Blade Run Away or something like that. something stupid as fuck.
Let's Blade Run Away. But yeah, I feel like it's sort of the same vibe. A lot more tolerable. But
yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Very on the nose, but that's a problem on this entire album. I like her kind of rap flow on this song though. Like a lot of the triplet stuff is very satisfying.
Yeah, it does fill in the space very nicely.
And I feel like overall, like their hooks are pretty solid. Like here works fine. Like say I look good, say I look hot. Like that, it's fine. But other than that, it's just kind of it's a track off The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monáe.
It sure is track number 5. But AJ, track number 6, Ooh La La,
is also track number 5, surprisingly.
Pretty much, yeah. Again, it's another sort of skit type deal.
Yeah, a little interlude.
There's like, I think it's Grace Jones who's speaking French rather eloquently, I'd say, which is really, really cool because I love the French language. There's the skits are fun.
Yeah,
I just kind of wish that they'd serve more of a purpose than being padding.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's a break from the tracks, but they kind of incorporate a lot of elements from the previous track anyway, with just some like extra stuff on top.
Yeah, and then there's like organ and guitar that sounds really, really good.
Yeah,
but then like the speaking, well, I do love it. I feel like it kind of is just like, what do I focus on here?
Yeah,
a little bit.
That's fair. It's just kind of a transition song.
Yeah,
there's really not much to say besides that it sounds nice.
Number 7 then.
Number 7, Lipstick Lover,
which is one of the singles. It's the second single, I believe. I forget what the third one is, but yeah, no, I gotta say this is probably one of the better songs.
Yeah, it has more of like a reggae kind of vibe, which is cool.
I think this is like one of the sort of like hearts of this record. It's one of the selling points. I guess that's why it's a single, but in my opinion, it's probably the best one on the album in terms of enjoyability.
Yeah.
It has a very catchy chorus. I think her vocals on this track in particular are so nice and lush and clean, specifically on the pre-chorus, actually, not because the chorus is lipstick lover, lover. Yeah.
But with like the layered vocals and like the harmonies kind of leading into that. Yeah, that part's really nice.
I also kind of have an appreciation for this song because this was the first song on the album that I heard that got me hyped to like listen to the album and check it out. And I saw them work on this song because they were posting like update videos and stuff like that. And I saw like the process of making the music video, which is interesting. And then and I kind of was hoping that like the rest of the album would kind of sound like this.
Okay.
But like in different directions where I think they kind of like lean toward it. They don't really. This one stands out the most in my opinion because I think it has the most musical quality. It's just like a song. I mean, I know it's supposed to be like the song of the album, like or at least one of them. But yeah, personally, I think it's just
it's one of the better ones on here. I'm not the biggest fan of this track. Like I like the kind of reggae vibe. And as you said, the pre-chorus is really fucking nice with those layered vocals. But lyrically, I'm not the biggest fan of this one.
I would also agree with that.
Sticky Icky is the lyric that really gets me, where I'm like, ooh.
I thought it was Sticky Hickey.
Oh, Sticky Hickey. Either way.
Imagine if you were just like, on second thought.
You know what? That really turned me around.
No, I would agree with that. Like a lot of my like the things that I like about it are more on the musical side. And I feel like yet again, this is another one where like the lyrics are not great. I can maybe forgive it a little bit more on this one, but only because it's like catchy enough. Yeah.
And it's like pretty different from what we've been hearing so far.
Exactly. But I'd say, I'd kind of agree with the lyrics on this one. It's definitely not like the finest lyricism I've ever heard.
Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. I just, again, horns.
Gotta love them.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, let's rush into this next track with The Rush. Surprised there were no references to the band. Actually,
Big Time Rush.
I was going to say Rush.
Oh, yeah, like the... one of my notes was, what if Big Time Rush did just like show up midway through the song?
What a crazy feature.
That would have been insane. We need to get rid of James Maslow.
Who is that?
James from Big Time Rush.
What did he do?
He played James.
That's it. That's his crime to humanity.
A little bit. He's also interesting as a person.
Yikes.
Okay, back to the actual song though. The bass line is actually kind of sweet on this.
Yeah.
And I really like how it kind of like really like vibrates in your ears.
I would agree. I also really like the vibraphone on there.
Oh yeah.
The vibes are very fucking nice, creating us some nice auxiliary percussion layering. I like that a lot.
There's also some guitar that I think is pretty good.
The acoustic guitar, that shit fucking rules. It has kind of like a Spanish influence on there too, as it leads into the feature.
Yeah. But yet again, it's not enough. I feel like it only kind of leans there.
Yeah, and then disappears. Yeah. And
it's a shame because they're obviously very talented musicians, but it's just like...
They're just kind of, they don't live to their full potential, which sucks.
No, yeah.
And I'm also not the biggest fan of the feature on this track. Like the high-pitched kind of baby vocals they do.
I don't even remember that part.
Amore?
Probably.
Amore? That's Amore. But yeah, their feature I was not the biggest fan of, just how it sounded.
When the heart meets the rush and
age of pleasure.
That's Amore.
Janelle Monáe.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about it.
And I don't really have a lot to say about this next one either. We got another interlude, baby. The French 75.
Again, horn section. Cool.
Great saxophone.
Yeah.
Is this the one with French people talking?
I thought the first one was, because it was Ooh La La. I think there's two of them with French people talking.
Okay, a lot of French on this album. That's going to drop it down a couple pegs.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I think in particular is them being like, we're going to have a great fucking time tonight.
One. Yeah.
I forget. I'm pretty sure that's this one.
Okay.
But
it's an interlude. How crazy can you get?
Classic Sister Nancy. Well, that's all I can say.
Amen.
This one's only like a minute long, so we can probably just go to the next one.
Yeah, let's slide into this next one, which is kind of a favorite of mine.
It is pretty good. I like the bum, 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 like in the left ear. It's called Waterslide. The bass is very, very nice on this one, and I can appreciate that. I feel like it stands out more
Totally.
than the other ones, except the previous one I mentioned that I'm forgetting offhand. Was it Haute? No, it was the Rush. It was the Rush. But yeah, they were saying like at one point they were saying like backstroke, breaststroke
during like the pre-chorus. I think I really like that part a lot.
I do, but like you can't do that on a water slide.
You'll get kicked out or die.
Yeah, I was about to say you'll get like a concussion or something. Yeah, I think again this is another one that's pretty. It stands out more.
Yeah, it has a nice chill reggae kind of vibe. I think like her flow on the pre-chorus is really nice with like the backstroke and repeating that.
I believe this is also the third single on the album.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure it's Float, Lipstick Lover, and then it's Waterslide.
Checks out. Those are all pretty good songs.
Oh God, should we just move on to the next one?
I think that's a good idea.
Because we know better.
Exactly. Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. It's a little different from what we've been hearing more. It feels kind of like a little more kind of downbeat, a little more modern, kind of synthy. But it's not really a favorite of mine.
I don't really have a lot to say about this one either. Like the beat is, I feel like a bit more atmospheric than a few of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like as a whole, this song is a little unneeded.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's just kind of there.
I think at some point, one of the biggest things is like this song takes a bit to get to the main focus, which is the pleasure part, which in the beginning it kind of like dilly-dallies, then you finally get there, like I think 3 or 4 tracks in, but then it's just the same idea for like
over and over again.
Like almost the rest of the
pretty much.
And I think again, they're saying the same thing
in different ways,
but not different enough.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to say it in different ways, but it's not really like.
Yeah, because I feel like there's kind of like I don't want to say like a lack of like creativity, but like a lot of like the lyrics relate to the same kind of thing, and the instrumentation and kind of the feel of each song is pretty similar. Like you get different variations with like Waterslide and Lipstick Lover, but even then they still kind of fit the major vibe of the album.
Yeah,
and I think No Better is a casualty of that.
Good horns, yet again.
Yeah, if nothing else, you can always rely on those horns.
That's true. That is true.
But otherwise, they're just kind of mid.
To be honest with you, these next 3 are kind of like.
I think the second to last track is pretty good.
Yeah, okay. It's definitely the one I have the most written down for in comparison to the other 2.
But like next up, Paid in Pleasure, that's like another.
Sort of like transition song.
Yeah.
And it's groovy. I will give it that.
Mm-hmm. It's probably like the most developed of all the transition songs.
I kind of wish it wasn't so short. Like I feel like if they honestly just had more instrumental sections, it would at least diversify the album.
Yeah, it's also this song is also really repetitive with the chorus.
That's true.
Just repeating the word pleasure over and over again. Which we get it, Janelle.
we get it. It's
you
the
be
age.
fucking. We understand.
But we can just go straight into track number 13, the penultimate track. Only Have Eyes for 2.
With the number 442.
I feel like you can only do that if you're Prince, you know?
Yeah, you got to earn that.
Exactly.
Janelle, you're not there yet. Make your Purple Rain, then we'll talk.
You can play guitar. I do know that, but that'd be pretty dope if they did a bunch of like Prince covers.
That'd be tight.
Yeah, I'll have your people talk to my people. But anywho, yeah, no, this is definitely, I guess, sort of like a gem, more like a polished rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the vocal harmonies on this one are actually pretty good.
Amazing. Gives me like kind of like Destiny's Child vibes.
Yeah.
Like very classic R&B.
Yeah,
vocal styling.
No, I would agree with that for sure. There's also this little string and piano section.
Yeah, man. It sounds like an MF Doom sample. I love it.
No, it's pretty sweet. It's a nice little treat before the end.
Yeah, nice kind of little tropical jazzy kind of feel to it, which I dig.
Then the last track, if there's nothing else to say, is A Dry Red. Mm-hmm. Very short, but it's pleasant, and such.
Which goes with the theme,
Of the whole thing, yeah.
It's a like kind of a fitting closer. It's pretty intimate sounding. Instead of very the kind of like on the nose raunchy lyrics, kind of like a nice kind of step back. From all that, and it's fine.
Yeah, I think fine is definitely a word I would use.
Some cool flutes. But other than that, not really anything special. So Matt, what did you think of The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monáe?
To be honest with you, as much as I can't say this album has anything like egregiously wrong, it's also just not really interesting, I'd say. Like in the beginning, it kind of works its way to the core theme, but then once it's there, it just is about that with barely any variations for like 6 songs. Their vocals are great though. And
Totally.
I've seen their vocals in action in other places too, and I know that they're great. And the live shows of these are really, really good.
Okay.
Because I've seen a couple of them.
Cool.
I know they can cover a wide range of music styles. And while I do like the fact that Janelle decided to like dip her toes into like the reggae, like Afrobeat, like genre more in this one, I feel like I've seen it better executed and stuff like that.
Yeah, and she didn't really go far enough.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think I can't help because I work by comparisons, unfortunately. Which's Zango came out this year, which in my opinion kind of said a lot of this without actually saying it up front. Because a lot of it they were talking about was just like love, loss, and all that stuff. And I feel like their beats just kind of went like so much harder.
Yeah.
And just their vocals were just so like crazy and stuff like that. And I feel like this was just kind of that, but like watered down a little bit.
Gotcha.
So I can't say that I hated it though. So I'd give it like a C-. And then number wise, ooh, that's tough. I'd say like a 4.9. Like
Yeah.
not quite up to 5, but like it's not terrible.
I mean, I would completely agree with everything you said. Like, the highlights are definitely the instrumentals, but the only problem is that all the cool stuff never lasts. Like, once it starts getting really cool, they just kind of go away.
Exactly.
Which really sucks. Janelle's vocals are great. She has an awesome voice and a fun personality all throughout, but it does get very repetitive with the consistent theme of pleasure and not really doing a lot with that. And yeah, there really isn't anything, as you said, like egregiously bad. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
There's some gems in there, like Only Have Eyes for Two, Waterslide, Float, Champagne Ship. Those are fun songs, but they're nothing that I'm ever gonna go back to. So I'd probably give this like a C minus as well.
Any number?
No.
That's all right. Cool. I tried, guys. So that takes care of that album.
Yes. Toss that in the bin. It's time to move on to fucking epic album that I'm really curious to hear your opinions on. So Matt, shall we start talking about Loveless?
Yes, we should.
All right, so Loveless by My Bloody Valentine was released November 4th, 1991 on Creation, Sire, and Domino Records, and it is the second studio album released by legendary shoegaze pioneers My Bloody Valentine. The group formed in 1983, and the founding members consisted of Belinda Butcher on vocals and guitar, Kevin Shields on guitars, vocal, and sampling keys, Colin Okiesog on drums, and Debbie Googe on bass.
So you've been saying that you wanted to hear my thoughts on this record.
I'm very curious because this is an album that I discovered somewhat recently, like 2 years ago, and I fell in love with it from the first time I heard it. So I'm very intrigued to hear your opinions because you said you had a lot of thoughts.
Well, I don't want to spoil it yet again, but I will begin with this precursor that I did not enjoy this album at all.
Interesting.
No, I actually did not enjoy this album whatsoever.
Let's fucking get it. Okay, let's go. I'm excited. Let's go. Only Shallow. Hop right in.
It's not as bad as the initial American football reaction because I did think of that because this is the first time I think you've given me an album in a while where I've been like, oh, I don't really vibe with this like nearly as much as like I usually would.
Yeah.
And I tried, but they're just okay. We can just start, I guess.
I guess before that, are you familiar at all with shoegaze? Like what it is?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay.
I've listened to like a little bit of shoegaze.
Gotcha. All right then. Well, I guess with that said, Only Shallow. Hop right in.
Okay. I will say the opener is very, very strong. And I think this album leans a lot towards like noise rock and noise pop. According to Wiki anyway. That is what became very apparent though with like it's very much like a noise rock kind of angle to this.
A lot of emphasis on the guitars and distortion.
Very much on the distortion. Yeah. And I think the riff on this one is very, very strong. And I do like it. It's not quite what I expected in terms of vocals.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much like really like in your face kind of noise, but it's also like quiet at the same time.
Yeah. So this is a very dreamy album. It incorporates a lot of elements of dream pop, which I love. I think the combination of like distorted guitars and dreamy vocals blends beautifully. And I think that is greatly exemplified here as like the choruses are essentially just instrumental, noisy guitars that fucking shred. And the verses bring things way down, with some very soft, tender vocals with some awesome like drum fills in there as well. I think this track is fun, like a phenomenal opener.
It is pretty good. I think it sets the tone well.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm interested to hear your other issues, but I'm going to sing my praises of the song before we move on.
Go ahead.
I love the sound of the snare on this entire album. It has so much pop and punch here, and I just love how snare focused a lot of the fills are too. It really makes them all pop. Belinda Butcher's vocals are phenomenal all across this album. They sound very soft and dreamy here, which creates a nice juxtaposition from the harsh instrumentals, as I already said. And I like how the backing vocals kind of get clearer and clearer as the song progresses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of my favorite tracks on the album.
It's definitely one of the best ones.
Mm-hmm.
I will give it that. And there are some on here where I'm like, okay, yeah, I could definitely see myself like vibing to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like the structure of this song though, because I like how it's like verses, but then the hook is the burn.
Yeah, the hook is just the instrumental.
That's like cool. I like that a lot.
Has a cool little outro too, where it kind of like slows things down. Lets the guitars just kind of like trill a little bit.
Mm-hmm. With the like ethereal, like, and it's
ambiance.
Like the drive is like super up and stuff like that. So it makes it sound like there's like more to it in a way. I don't know. I couldn't hear the lyrics at all. That's just kind of a product of shoegaze. Like I know that because I've kind of learned from the shoegaze like influence across Urapaya, which is it dips into shoegaze like a bit, I'd say, but like yeah, the vocals, a lot of the stuff is kind of buried in the mix at points. At some points worse than others. Yeah. But that is very much a part of like the genre. Yeah. And maybe that just means the genre isn't for me that much.
Completely fair.
Because I'm trying to be more of a lyrics person. I really am. I think the more I've been listening to like rap, I've been trying to be more of a lyrics person. And maybe just unfortunately that aspect of it really made this album kind of lost on me.
Gotcha.
So I have other things to say, but like, yeah. And I promise there are parts that I did enjoy, but as a whole, I don't think I enjoyed this album very much.
All right.
What else did I do? That's about it for the first one anyway. Actually, for the whole album, I think we can just end right here.
Wrap it up. F tier.
Not quite. I promise.
But I'm good to move on.
Are we Lumen?
I think we're Lumen. Like that's Declassified. We're Billy Lumen.
Like, oh my God.
Billy Loomer, baby.
It's Coconut Head.
Sadly, it's not about Coconut Head, though, unfortunately.
He died in the war.
He did.
Rest in peace.
What a hero.
What a hero.
Anyway, I think this is an interesting follow-up. It has a lot more of a dark kind of sound to it. And it's about feeling like a loser at a party, which, we can all relate to.
From what I could hear of the lyrics, that was sort of the vibe.
It's got kind of almost like an 80s kind of alt-rock, goth rock kind of sound to it, which I really fuck with. There is some New Ordery kind of Sonic Youth stuff. Yeah, no, I like Sonic Youth. Sonic Youth is pretty cool. I've listened to a few of their stuff. And with this track, I like how rumbly this one is. Like the noise just sort of like fills my ears with like a kind of like noise. It's like static.
Yeah, it's interesting. I will give it to them. I'm sure it was probably loud as fuck when they recorded it, but they really just kind of made it like present, but like not exactly like blasting in your ears.
Definitely.
Which I think adds to the dream and shoegaze kind of like aspect of it. Yeah,
because like a lot of these tracks sound very like ethereal, even if they're like very loud, but they're still like, you can still pick out everything in the mix. Yeah. It's not completely buried. It's like just there enough so you can hear it, which is like, exemplified with the bass on this track. Like I feel like the bass line is really fucking good here, and even though it's like kind of low in the mix, you can still pick it out and you can be like, oh shit, that's actually like really nice, really driving the song. I also love the keys during the breaks between the verses. That's really nice. Like the use of sampling keys, I can't really tell what's the guitar and what's the keys, which is kind of like a fun guessing game, which I like a lot. Which might be an issue.
I feel like you. I feel like it's a guessing game for you, and for me, it's like oh god, wait, what am I listening?
What is this?
I mean, they're definitely achieving the sound they want to achieve, which I can't really blame them for, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I do feel like this is one of the better tracks, actually. This is one of the better tracks, I'd say.
Ooh, I'm interested.
There are a few of them where the fatigue very much set in a little bit quickly.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, I will say the level of compression, I'd say, in this track, while having like so much noise, but giving it like a gentle quality, I think is rather impressive. Yeah,
I think they balance that very well with like some tracks like later down the line too. But yeah, I like this one.
Were you touched by it? by any chance?
I was WarioWare touched by it, Matt.
Oh no, not Roman Catholic Wario. That's a thing. Wario is actually
canonically Roman Catholic. Yes,
somewhere in the files they were just like, oh yeah, by the way,
Wario is confirmed.
That fits though. You know what I mean?
That's true.
He would be Roman Catholic.
He is a bastard.
Yes, that's true. Touched is the third track off of Loveless. And again, I like the grungy quality to this one.
This is like the most out there track too. So like it's if it's different from everything on the rest of here, it almost sounds like wailing screeching coming from the guitars, mixed with these kind of like cool keys that remind me of the Mother 3 soundtrack, which I fuck with.
One thing that, since I work by comparisons, one thing that I compared this to, do you know the band TV Girl?
I think I've heard of them, but I never heard any of their music.
There's a song called Lovers Rock. That's one of their most popular ones. And it uses a lot of because I noticed that they use a bit of string samples in certain areas, like synth string samples. And I felt like this band was the sort of hazier, maybe messier version of that. Because I'd say that TV Girl's vibe is kind of like the TV Static, a little bit. Like it's on two different ends of the TV Static spectrum, I guess.
Two wolves, yeah.
But yeah, I would say that it reminded me a lot of that, like TV Girl's usage of
distortion and
and making
effects.
it sort of and effects. But more distortion, and I really felt it in this one and the next track.
Gotcha.
It kind of felt like I love how corrupted this one kind of sounds.
Yeah.
I will say
It sounds like almost alien. It's cool.
it's like a carnival ride that's seen better days in a weird way. You know what I mean? There's
That's that's kind of interesting. That's cool.
and then there's with the way that they get the instruments to sound, there's a siren quality that I can kind of hear on this one and another one too. But this is one of the better ones, I promise.
I'm interested to hear, because Touch is probably my least favorite track on the album. I think it's cool, but it's interesting to hear one of your better liked ones.
I think I'm not gonna dig into this one as much as American Football.
Yeah.
Because I think I was also kind of learning how to articulate what I didn't like, but I'm also trying to be better at articulating things that are well achieved.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this might just be more of a genre kind of thing for me.
All right.
Where I might not necessarily
fully latch onto it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that's totally fair. Shall we move on then?
Yes.
To Hear Knows When, this is one that I quite like a lot. This is a very dreamy kind of a chill track, which I dig.
This one paces itself quite well. I will say this one definitely paces itself. For 5 minutes, it goes by fast.
Yeah, it sounds to me like my interpretation of this is which is fucking wrong, but how it makes me feel. It feels like I'm hearing a dream or something.
Yeah.
Everything is extremely low in the mix besides the guitars and the sample keys. Even though the vocals you can barely hear, they're super muffled, but it feels like a transmission from a dream, which I think is a really cool kind of sound that they achieve.
Yeah, I can't hear the lyrics whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's
in this entire thing.
I think that's kind of the point.
I guess so. This is the other siren-like one that I was kind of that I was mentioning before.
Yeah.
This is the one that also really made me think of George Clanton.
Okay,
a lot.
yeah.
This one very much was similar to both TV Girl and George Clanton, I feel like.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, it's without the vaporwave quality, I feel like that George Clanton kind of has on Urap.
This is a little more raw.
Very much. It's a bit more
lo-fi.
raw. Yeah. Definitely the words I would use. It's very noisy, but again, not, I guess, overwhelmingly so.
Yeah, definitely not here. This is a lot one of the more laid back tracks that doesn't really rely on the use of distorted guitars. It's just kind of there to accent stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
it sounds almost like heavenly to me. The sampling keys, it just sounds so ethereal and ambient, which is why I like it quite a lot.
I'd probably have to re-listen to it then, because personally, heavenly is not the word I would use. But to each their own.
Fair.
I respect you for liking
My heaven
it.
is shoegaze, I guess.
Oh my god. Anything else to say about it?
I like the bass line here, and I like that even though the drums are completely buried in the mix, you could still hear them, and it still drives the song forward. And it's just a really cool concept that I think is executed very well.
I think the drums mixing overall on this record is something I have an issue with.
Okay.
I feel like they're just it's way too. I like my drums being really bass filled, and it's really just in the higher end of like the like equalization, if that makes sense, and in the mixing.
I think
it's just also probably a thing for like shoegaze and dream pop and all that stuff.
Well, perhaps, but I was gonna say said like a similar issue that I had with Age of Pleasure was that a lot of the songs felt like they didn't have a lot of weight, so like a weak backbeat. And I guess you kind of say that for this album, but I kind of disagree here because I feel like it's crunchy enough that it does provide a lot of weight, in my opinion. Because like a lot of the emphasis is more so on the snare and like the toms, which is what the focus is supposed to be on with all the fills. So I think it fits here where it doesn't work with Age of Pleasure, because Age of Pleasure is kind of non-existent.
That's true. Yeah, the mixing on that, its lack of risks is very it's very apparent.
Yeah.
Also, I don't really expect anything else from you know what I mean? Like I don't know. Number 5.
Number 5. This one is one of their most popular songs, and for good reason.
Mariana Cross.
I didn't see that one.
I sure heard it.
Well, that's on Ghost then, not MBV.
To me, it like for a second, I don't know why. It just kind of reminded me of that.
Like syncopation wise?
Maybe. I was thinking more like key and like maybe just there's some sort of like, because are there like strings or something like in this too? Or like organ or some shit?
Maybe some like sampled keys.
Probably.
Because again, it's really hard to tell what's a sample key and what's a guitar, guitar tone.
There is like a whistle synth thing that's kind of like throughout this track. And it's I feel like this one has a lot more purpose than a few of the other ones.
Like this one, I think it's one of like the most catchy kind of riffs on here, and just kind of like the vocal delivery too. This is Kevin Shields doing the vocals instead of Belinda Butcher.
Yeah, and I definitely liked this one more, I think, than a few of the other ones.
Gotcha. I think it was like a cool, nice little alt rock song. It has like the shoegaze flair here. The main riff is iconic. I just love the feel of it too. The bass line's really smooth. I like how it kind of uses the ride cymbal instead of the hi-hat on this track too.
No, really. It really does on like the eighth notes especially, which is really, really cool.
Creates a very nice change up, which I think also fits the song very well. Creates a more kind of gentle tone.
The drums really stood out to me on this one more than like any, like a bit more than like most of the other tracks, I'd say. Which I think is probably, I don't know. I feel like the drums mixing is probably one of my biggest things with this record.
Interesting. I never really had a problem with it. But I love this track. This like was a grow. I never gravitated towards this one, but upon like further re-listens, it's one of my favorites now.
It's also paced really well too, I will say.
Definitely.
Oh, I thought the outro of the last track was going to lead into this one.
Yeah, it doesn't do that.
Yeah, there's a few. Aren't there like a few parts on this where it kind of does that?
Yeah, it's like about to go into it, then it just kind of cuts off before the next track starts, which kind of sucks.
A little bit, because it always sounds so interesting at the end.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just used to like Coldplay and I guess Janelle Monáe with the
smooth transitions.
There are two ends of the spectrum. Yeah,
and MBV isn't on either of them.
Number 6.
Number 6, I only said, again, this is another one that I like. This fucking riff is wild with the whistling.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. I dig it.
Wild is definitely a word I would use as well. The hook definitely goes beyond what I would like think it was going to be. Because I feel like most of the time hooks and melodies are like, there's a little bit of like intuitiveness where you think it's going to go, which kind of like helps with the catchiness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like with this one, the way that the melody was like going, I really was not expecting whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like an E major, but like it kind of like goes all over, which is interesting. So
I don't know my notes, so that means nothing to me.
Personally, this is one of the less enjoyable tracks for me.
Okay. Too long?
Yeah. Length is definitely a thing with me. In most situations,
am I right, fellas? Am I right?
Am I right, fellas? I also just feel like the noise does not lend itself well here.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I think it strikes a nice balance personally, because it's separated by verse and chorus pretty much. And I like the kind of like the shuffly kind of feel with the drum beat, the 1 and a 2, 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4. And I think it's a nice change up beat wise. Kind of like Only Shallow again. It gets kind of like, a more noisy in the chorus, a little more intimate in the verses. And I also just like the riff here a little more. It's, even though it is noisy, it's still gentle, so it fits the tone of the song overall, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I just love the hook. I think it's just a lot of fun and very, very kooky.
I feel like that's sort of the like the big thing with a lot of these tracks. They have like an instrumental hook that's like buried in a lot of noise. And while I think in other tracks, I like it works. This one for me, I don't know why. I kind of like
Didn't get you?
not really. No.
Okay. I will also say Shields is great on this song as well, coming off of When You Sleep. And I like the bridge. So next up is Coming Alone. I'll say here is where I have like less attachment to the album. I think like a lot of the back half tracks are still pretty good, but I don't have as much fondness as I do for like Only Shallow to When You Sleep.
My fatigue was definitely like setting in like around here, I'd say.
This one, Coming Alone, is a lot heavier coming off of I Only Said. It's a lot more aggressive, a lot more noisy, which I think I like it, but I think it could benefit to kind of like be less aggressive because it is very like high pitched and whiny.
Yeah, and I think I don't dislike this one as much as the previous one. It's still not as big of a hook in for me.
Yeah. I feel like it is one of the weaker hooks on the album.
This is one of the parts where I really think the noise rock kind of aspect of it doesn't really work like the best.
Gotcha. Which is kind of fair. It is kind of like a little lumbering, a little sloggy, but
a little looming,
a little Billy looming.
Billy looming.
But again, I like the drums here. I love I just kind of like how the drums are formatted here, where even though it's like super simple, just like 3 bars and a fill, it still just always gets me because I just love the way they sound. But there's some really nice guitar breaks. There's some really cool vocal effects on the third verse because this is when Belinda comes back, I think. And I think it just sounds really cool, even if it is one of the weaker tracks on the album.
I feel like, because you mentioned vocal effects, it sounded like the same to me as like any of the other ones.
I think it kind of like, it gets like a little more like echoey.
Maybe.
Like this album is really good at subtly building, which I found, on the next track we'll see done like phenomenally. But like they kind of slowly add in elements, but it's really hard to hear because of the way it's produced. So it's kind of like rewarding that you can like pick out these like little moments where it's like, oh, they're doing something different from here that's building upon this previous thing that they already did. For example, adding like an interesting effect on a vocal that you wouldn't really expect. It's tough to hear, but it's rewarding if you like really dig into it, which you're not going to, and I don't blame you.
Okay, well, here's the thing though, because while I do think that it's cool for records to have like a build up, don't get me wrong, I also think like if you have to sort of trudge through a bunch of tracks only to get to like one of the bigger selling points, I don't know, when like the other tracks themselves, I don't really want to use this word, but seem a little bit like redundant in terms of like the sound quality. I feel like it's like, well, what's the point of all the other tracks then? You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so what's your argument here? Like that the buildups...
It's so like you said that there was like a payoff, right? But like I feel like it's not noticeable enough to even like...
Well, I wouldn't say it's like a payoff. It's more like something like... It's like an extra thing they're doing in like each of the song that makes it kind of like feel more full, more complete.
Okay.
Like it's more rewarding for a re-listen, I would say, rather than it's a payoff for like listening to the album.
Yeah.
Like I'll say like when we get to the next track, I'll kind of explain like the build up a little better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be like,
no, you're good.
You're wrong, and I promise.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I promise. I'm trying to listen to your points, but I'm also trying to like remember, like if
you caught that,
like based on what you're saying, because like the way you're describing it to me is like it's so like selling. It's like it's like there it is. But from what I'm like trying to recall, I'm like I didn't hear that though.
Gotcha.
So maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know, but like
Matt, I think your issue. You got to listen to this album playing Resident Evil 6. And all will be right with the world.
I'll choose a different game for this one. I don't know what yet, but I'll choose a different one. I think I actually did try AJ and I over the last month. We tried to play like Left 4 Dead 2. Well, I tried to play. AJ knew how to play, but I tried to play.
It was fun.
I did try to give this album a try
while playing.
Yeah,
I see.
I tried to give this album a try. What the fuck does that mean? And I didn't really notice anything because you know there were zombies and shit also everywhere, so I didn't really.
Yeah.
But so sometimes I try to listen to it actively first, and other times I try to listen to it like passively first. And I mean, it was fine instrumental wise for like the scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we were like massacring zombies with machine guns and stuff. But yeah, no, active listening, I was just kind of like, I don't know. This feels a bit just like of a
repetitive
trudge. Yeah. And it's really just like, and I think like musically, it's all like different. I think it's just the mixing and like the sort of like angle they go at with like the noisy aspect of it that just for me feels
Doesn't
like
work.
there isn't like that much of a reward per se.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe this requires maybe it's like American football. Maybe I just got to like give it some time.
I'm not gonna push this on you. I'm not gonna be like fucking listen to Loveless 8 more times and like it. if you don't like it, that's totally fine.
Give me another I promise. I try to like everything you give me. I promise, but like I just
No, Matt, I always shit on a lot of your albums, so this is totally fine.
I mean, a lot of my albums aren't critically acclaimed like yours. So I mean, even though Give Me the Future is
the
infallible in all of British music.
Exactly. In the upper echelons with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band right next to them.
Give Me the Future is right in between. Anyway, we should probably keep talking about the tracks.
All right, next up is Sometimes. This is one that grew on me a lot. This is probably like the softest track on the album. I like the balance of acoustic and electric they have here.
Okay.
It creates a nice kind of balance we haven't seen throughout the rest of here because the acoustic has a different element where it's a clean guitar versus a distorted guitar, which is a very cool clash. And how I would say the buildup is that like it starts out with kind of just guitars with, the classic distortion, but like slowly everything in the mix builds up. It's not a big buildup, but it's something like noticeable the more you listen to it.
Okay.
So like it kind of like just builds up to like this big kind of like flourish where everything kind of comes in slowly, but it's very rewarding in my opinion.
Because like up until the 2-minute mark, I think the drums are just kind of like silently like bumping through a bit, and then I did like notice it gets like louder. You know what I mean? But one good thing, I can hear the vocals a lot more clearly on this one.
Let's go.
Than the other one.
We got one voice.
Oh man. What else? Is there anything else that I didn't say already? Is what I'm trying to say. Is what I'm trying to look for. I mean,
it's got a nice kind of intimate kind of vibe, which I feel if it's a very kind of reflective, almost depressing kind of song, I would assume it's about some kind of failed relationship because a lot of these songs are about like emotional unavailability in relationships and more so lust than love. So this might be something related to that. I feel like the instrumental carries that feeling very well because it sounds very like regretful or like remorseful before kind of like building up to like an almost kind of acceptance at the end.
I think music-wise, I like this one a bit. This is one of the ones I liked more.
It's one of like the cleaner tracks.
Yeah. And I think the tracks get progressively cleaner as they go along.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, but at the same time, I don't know. But let's keep on scratching.
All right, Gus. Next up, we have Blowing a Wish, which is very dream poppy. This feels like very Cocteau Twins coded. In the way like the instrumental is. It's a lot more kind of key heavy, very kind of like wistful, if that's a word. It's just like kind of letting Belinda Butcher get a chance to do her Cocteau Twins impression with some nice kind of sampling keys, a cool little bass line, and like more kind of like toned down distortion.
There is a moment where this one is very, very palatable, I'd say.
Yeah.
Blowing a Wish is very palatable and probably one of the ones I liked more. Like I did add some of these to like to my playlist.
Okay.
I think it's just like, I think a lot of these individually are like, okay.
Yeah.
I think together, like when you're just doing noise, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
I gotcha.
Again, maybe I just gotta like go back into it after a little bit.
Matt, I'm not pressuring you.
No, I know. I'm trying.
I'm joking.
I'm trying to say what I didn't like about it, but also not be like this album sucks. Like you know what I mean? Because like
what I do.
I don't know. Because I feel like I'm very quick to like just do that, and I'm trying my best to like not do that as much this season. Because I feel like I noticed that a lot where I'd be like, I don't like it. It's bad.
Actually.
No, there is something really, really nice in this track. There is a moment like in each verse where the synth, like at one of the chord changes just really comes into fruition. And it sounds rather nice, I will say. And I did enjoy hearing that. It's
a very palatable track. Nothing really too aggressive about it. And I feel like the title, it feels like you're being blown a wish. It's a nice, cute little track. One of the lyrics that I was able to hear and decipher that stood out to me. Fall apart, my beating heart, nothing left to do. Once in love, I'll be the death of you. Like the lyrics aren't very deep, but I think like they serve their purpose, and I think they're like cool in very subtle ways.
As deep as 90s alt rock can be, AJ.
Exactly. As Dave Grohl once said, monkey wrench.
Whoop diddy diddy. Whoop diddy diddy. I think the drums, though a bit faint and distant, can surprisingly be heard more. And I'll take it. You know, I'll take it for sure.
All right. We're almost done with this album. I think we only have 2 tracks left.
Yes, I believe so.
So next up we have What You Want. This is probably like the most like alt-rocky kind of standard track on here. Again, like every track. I like it. I think it has a really nice riff. Really reminds me of Dinosaur Jr., this like harder kind of 90s rock band, which is interesting because Kevin Shields actually went to help produce some of their stuff, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I like it. I think it's a nice penultimate track, even if it's just kind of standard, like all rocky stuff. There's some great guitar work. The drums sound good. The vocals are a little more muffled, but again, that's kind of part of the Loveless deal. So what are your thoughts, Matt?
I think it has a nice ending. Like,
I liked it when it was over.
No. I think they do like this really interesting
like
little
outro,
with
the keys,
with the keys, and there's like this. I imagine like sampled woodwind instruments or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that was kind of cool. It added to this like ambiguous factor that like they were trying to portray through like the dream pop angle, which is cool. And I think that was a neat thing to hear. In terms of like most of the other song, the guitars I could very much hear. They're like at the forefront of like everything, I feel like. And I felt that the song was really, really lacking like bass.
Fair.
And maybe because like the way I have my EQ set up in my headphones, maybe I just gotta listen to it with like the normal one, because I usually have like the bass like boosted a bit, just because like I like it.
Yeah, bass is good.
It's great.
It's great. I love it.
It also kind of helps me see, like, it helps me notice whether or not there's like a lot of bass or like not as much bass, because it's weird. Because it'll bring out the bass in like every track that I listen to on my headphones, but like if there isn't as much, like you can still hear it, but you can very much hear how like faint it is.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I think that was something I noticed with this one. It's lacking a little bit for my taste.
Okay.
But I gotta say though, it's consistent. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying my best to not be mean.
It's okay, Matt. If you feel free to express your opinions, my friend. This is a family-friendly show. That it is not.
No, it's not at all. I was about to say. I've had to dissuade many of my family members of listening to this. But that's pretty much all I gotta say in terms of that.
I mean, I feel like we've been rambling long enough. Let's bring her home with Soon. Probably the cleanest track on this entire album.
The cleanest track, and I think it's the best track on here.
Okay.
I think it has such dynamic range, like in terms of musicality and like mixing, compared to like a lot of other stuff on this record.
Okay.
The drums are like so in your face, despite like the mixing always having them pretty low. And like the riff feels like it has more direction than like the other ones, in my opinion.
Okay.
Also, like, this one has like the same haze you've listened to throughout most of the record, but like a lot more punch.
Interesting.
A lot more punch, in my opinion. And like the drum beat's great. I love the drum beat a lot. This one is really George Clanton like coded. I can't really hear the lyrics too well, but like this one's like groovy.
Yeah.
It has like a really groovy quality to it, and I can really dig that. Also, like, I feel like this is the one where the noise of the guitar is utilized the best.
Interesting.
Because there's other stuff too.
Okay.
And it's not like the main selling thing.
Gotcha.
Like the beat is like really like.
Yeah, it has like almost kind of like an 80s hip hop kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
It has like these really interesting influences that sounds completely different from everything else we've heard so far, which I think is like a very nice change of pace and a cool way to close out the album, with implementing what we've been hearing with something we haven't heard at all. I agree. I think the drum beat is awesome on this track. It's a very fun kind of shuffly groove. And it feels kind of like almost like a light at the end of the tunnel kind of situation.
I can definitely see that.
Where like after all this like kind of fuzz and distortion, we have this very clean sounding track that has almost more of an upbeat vibe, even if there's like a little bit of like kind of sour undertones. So I think it's a very nice closer, but it's never quite been a favorite of mine. And I guess so with that, we reach our final thoughts. So Matt, what did you think by Loveless by MBV?
I think I'm going to have to go back and probably look at the lyrics too, because I feel, here's the one thing, their lyrics are not on Spotify, which was a little annoying too, because like I like to watch it.
Yeah,
so I feel like I get like the best of everything, and I get to like sort of see at least what they're trying to say. So I'll probably have to go back and really just like look at the lyrics, see if they like really match, because like I did a little bit for some of them, just to see if like I can hear at all what they're saying, and then like just, I don't know. It felt like I didn't really know where in the song I was in terms of that. Maybe this is a bit too strong of a statement, but I kind of felt like with all the noise that you kind of like trudge through, it makes the album sound a bit tonally redundant. I don't know.
I mean, I disagree, but
okay.
Further explain.
I don't know. Just like you said, there's like the bit of like the reward factor with like the sort of way that the album goes from like progressively like distorted to like clean. Mm-hmm. And while I do think stylistically and artistically I respect that a lot, it's just that I didn't really like that angle of like approaching and like journeying through the album. Personally, I just was not like the biggest fan.
Okay.
So I think with just all that noise, only to like finally get to like one of the more cleaner tracks, I guess, or to like some of the more cleaner tracks, I don't know. I didn't really like that execution very much.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of it's like haze within like the noise is just a little bit annoying. Mm-hmm. And it feels like I really just had to like dig to like find stuff that stands out more in the mix, if that makes sense at all. I'm trying my best to like really just not, because I don't think I wrote anything like too aggressive like family, like American football.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's a bit, with all that noise, it makes it like a very long, like 40-ish minutes for me. The biggest thing is like I hear the energy of like all the instrumentation. Like you can tell that when they recorded it, it was probably like loud and full of energy and stuff like that. But it's just like so like lowered and like compressed a bit for me that I feel like it's just like kind of what's the point?
Gets lost.
A little bit, yeah. So I don't know. It's a bit too ambiguous for me, and I think it just was not really my cup of tea. And it might just be more of like a genre thing for me that I just don't really love.
Okay.
And just don't really vibe with. I will say though, it did get a higher rating because I did enjoy the closer quite a lot. But again, I mean, AJ has made a very compelling argument, and it's made me want to give another try in a little bit. Maybe I can give you guys a little update. But at the same time, if any of y'all in the comments want to disagree with me or give me any more selling points, please, I'd love to know what y'all's takeaways are. Maybe that would be enough for me to like see a different angle. You know what I mean? Like I'm totally willing to change my mind. I just at first listen, first few listens, because I listened to this twice. But anyway, I'm beating around the bush a little bit. I did put this in D.
Oh, okay.
But I could maybe be persuaded to like...
No persuasion needed in that.
Okay.
Honest opinions.
Okay,
Honest opinions only.
Listen, if someone can give me a good, valid argument for the case, like a few more, I'd be willing to bump it up. Yeah, I in terms of enjoyability, I gave it a D.
And
I'm sorry.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I tried to approach it less aggressively than American football, but like I'm sorry, I didn't really enjoy this.
Hey man, there's nothing wrong with that. I may hate you like personally,
it's okay.
We already knew that.
We're business partners, and that's what matters.
Exactly. That's where a relationship ends.
Exactly. Oh man. Goodness.
Oh well. I would have to disagree with a lot of these thoughts.
Go ahead. By all means, disagree.
I think this album is incredible. This was my introduction to shoegaze. So, like American football, I listened to this while working my shitty photo editing job, but it was one of the few albums that I took away that I fucking loved upon first listen, because I didn't hear anything like this before, and I thought it was amazing. I love all of the guitar riffs, like even though they're kind of like, as you would say, redundant, I feel like they're interesting enough to diversify the entire like album track list. Like there's like all the hooks you can kind of pick out, and which gives each song its own like unique identity. And I feel like the distortion, the fuzz gives the album like its identity, its personality, which is a part of the genre as a whole, but it also is unique to Loveless, because it's just so heavy and drenched in that distortion. I feel like the vocals are awesome, even if they're very low in the mix. It kind of leaves a lot up to interpretation, which is good for me because I'm not a lyrics guy. So I just kind of like how they flow like rhythmically. So even if they're like low in the mix, it still is satisfying to listen to. And they always kind of portray like a feeling of melancholy and sadness, which I feel like
that was apparent, I will say. Yeah, I think they got that point across.
Yeah. The drums and the bass work, even if they're low in the mix, like you can still pick them out and they still also stand out on their own. Like Only Shallow for the drums is incredible. Loomer has a great bass line. I just feel like the production is just so captivating. It's so weird and like out of the box. Like you wouldn't expect this, but it just sounds so cool and unique that I just love revisiting this album. So it's a personal favorite of mine. I love revisiting it. I'm going to give this an A+.
Okay.
I was kind of convinced to go S tier, but I feel like it's not quite there yet, and I'm not sure if it will ever reach there, but A+. Very, very high A+.
I gotcha.
Well, Matt, that was a very fun episode of the Family Album.
It was. If it makes you feel better, AJ, I didn't really like my album that much either. So,
hey man,
so
I didn't. Neither did I.
Oh man, I just really wanted to talk about that one, mostly because it was kind of a letdown for me because I was really hyped and then it just kind of.
Because it was like a 5-year gap between their last one and Age of Pleasure, right?
Believe so. Yeah.
So I wrote a review on Album of the Year that was kind of funny. Their username is Baddie Baphomet, I believe. She's a great reviewer, like one of my favorites to read.
Baphomet, one of the satanic. I believe that's one of the figures in Satanism.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Also, the Persona games.
Oh yeah, where they're from. Apparently.
That's where God actually got his inspiration from.
It's just like how the tarot cards are from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, guys.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah,
that's their origin.
And nothing else.
Anyway, Baddie's review was like, it's like if you listen to Gorillaz Plastic Beach and then 5 years later you got the Now Now. I was
that's very, very accurate, yeah.
I thought that was funny. And
though I don't mind the Now Now because I love Gorillaz just in general, and I can kind of get behind anything. That is definitely one of the least enjoyable ones for me.
Agreed. Very, very mid. But this episode wasn't mid. At least we'd like to think so.
It was fun.
Yeah, this is cool. Again, disagreeing. We don't really get a chance to do that.
We don't.
So it's fun.
But yeah, we hope that you enjoyed. I was about to say leave a like, leave a follow. I've never fucking said that in my life.
Don't flame Matt in the comments or do.
I mean,
it could be kind of funny.
Listen, I tried to be gentle, so if you guys want to be aggressive with it, that's on you.
Flame me in the comments for my opinions about Age of Pleasure or Loveless.
Don't flame me. I think that my opinions on that were correct. To be honest with you. But no, we really hope that you enjoyed.
With that. This has been the Family Album. I'm your host, AJ Tenari.
I'm Matt Glass.
Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Peace.